Okay folks, here it is, the raw materials for the next piece of furniture made from trash. This block of wood, I think that it was Nels's piece of wood. I don't know where he got it, but it ended up here at my shop about a year ago, and it sat outside. Actually, you know what, I think this might have come from my neighbor who passed away, the late Toby Tyler. If you're from Homer, you probably recognize that name. He was an incredible artist. He painted mostly plants from the local area. Really cool guy, lived next door, and he died about a year and a half ago or something. I think this piece of wood was in his basement, and when they were cleaning out his house, I think this is where this came from. Anyhow, it was really dry. It's a giant piece of wood. It's about 12 by 16, and it's interesting. It looks like it was maybe cut with a chainsaw or a circular saw. I know it's probably old, really old tree. I haven't tried to count the rings, but this is some old growth wood. I would guess it was local spruce, possibly hemlock or something from across the bay here. But anyhow, I just couldn't throw it away. Couldn't bear to see it thrown away, so I've been hanging on to this thing. It's been sitting in my shop by the wood stove for not quite a year, but a while. And finally I decided, okay, I'm going to deal with it. So I think I know what I'm going to do. I have these old pieces of steel that I just brushed this one off. The rust is super thick on these. I just used my surfacing disc to grind a bunch of the rust off. I'm going to make this thing into a side table, console table, plant stand, something like that. And I'm going to use this material for the foot or base for it. And it's kind of hard to explain, but I think I'll just show you in pictures. This is going to be a square, kind of square, because this thing is actually not square at all. This piece of wood, I don't know if you can see this, but it's got a lot of angle to it, and it's very rough. It's got a big check on one side that has it all bowed out, cattywampus. So I'm going to keep it as is. I'm just going to give it a light surface sand to sort of bring out some of the natural color of the wood and highlight the texture. And maybe I should stand it vertically. I haven't really thought about that. I'm going to figure out something. I'm going to use this metal. I might use a piece of pipe, or a couple. And this block of wood. I'll let you know what I come up with.
There's been times in my life when I've had to choose. Should I take the safe road or take a chance and maybe lose? So I dropped out of college, took my guitar and stepped on stage. I threw away the rule books and I wrote my own page. Well, the jury is still out. If my decisions were all sound, it all depends on who you ask and if they're from my hometown. Well, I get mixed reviews when I ask my grown-up kids. I never asked my ex-wives, and I'm glad I never did. But when I want the answers, I just sit and watch my garden grow. Some's gone to seeds, some's gone to weeds, but oh, there's some fine rows. We live in every beauty, and we die in each regret. So pick up your hoe and know you've done your best.
Okay, we got the little table base here. This steel is really rotten. It's very thin and rusty, so the welding was a lot of stop and start, building up material, especially on these outside corners before I could get a weld on there. So sometimes I do 2 passes, just adding material, and then come back and connect the puddle. So it's a little bit slow and a little bit messy and not very pretty. I didn't clean it super well, so the wire feed was spattering a bit, but for what it is, it's very, very strong, good enough. So I'm happy with it. Like a little picture frame. Table base, I guess we'll call this. So next thing I'm going to do is put leveling feet in it. And then I think I might, I don't know what I'll do after that. Stay tuned. Okay, over here at the drill press. I'm going to do a small hole to start with, and then I'm going to use a new whiz banger tool, rivet nut. Just learned about these. I'm going to use that to insert a threaded insert, rivet a threaded insert in. So first step will be to drill a small pilot hole, and I just tap these things, pounded them with a point, marking the centers. Okay, pilot hole's done. Now I'm going to switch over to a 7/16 bit that works for these 8mm rivet nuts. Like a shaker. Sounds kind of cheesy, doesn't it? Oh well. I think once I put that giant block of wood on there, nobody's going to be shaking this thing. Now check this out. Rex Betty. Straight from Amazon. And this thing is like this. I've used this one time before. I did this, test one. But it seems pretty straightforward. You thread this thing on here, like that. Yes, so let's put the rivet nut on the thing, and then I'm going to insert it in the hole and clamp. And then unthread it, I guess. Voila! That is pretty awesome. I used to weld nuts on. I got these weld-on nuts, and I've gone through a few iterations of different ways of doing this same thing here. This is by far the easiest. This used to take me about 20 minutes to do something similar to this. Weld nuts in, or put thick steel on there and tap it so it had threads in it. Thank you, Rex Betty. I got a little leveling foot, threaded plastic foot. And now you can just throw it on the floor. Leveling feet. How sweet is that? I got quite the head scratcher going on here now. So this block of wood is not square. On this end it's 12 1/8. On this end it is 12 7/8. So I decided that I'm going to put it this way, vertically, and I want this wonky cut to be down. I'm going to have this rough end grain be the surface of the table. So these are going to be this is going to be the base. It's going to go on the other side. like this, but then this is going to be raised up off of it, like, yay. So the way I'm going to connect the two is with this steel pipe. It's going to be welded on the base like that, and then I'm going to drill holes into the wood. So the trick is going to be, how am I going to drill those holes plumb into a angle, basically? And I think it's probably a compound angle. See, it's tough because my floor is not level here, but I'm pretty sure what I got going on is an angle like this and an angle like that. Guess I can measure it. See, 13 and 3/8. Yeah, 12 and 7/8. 12. Yeah, so it's angled like this. So I figure out some way to drill these holes plumb vertical, referencing this face. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. But I'm going to figure it out. Okay, I came up with a plan. What I did was I leveled the block on the floor with the shim, because the floor is not level. And then, so I knew that the top surface of the table, which was upside down, was sitting level. Use the level. Then on the bottom surface of the table, block, which was very uneven, had an angle going two directions. Put this plywood on it and then put shims under it until I had a level surface. So this piece of plywood and the surface, the top surface of the block, are now parallel, and I will use a square and this giant drill bit. It's a wood owl bit used for timber framing, because now I know perpendicular to this plywood is perpendicular to the top surface of the table too, so I can get myself really pretty close this way. So I'll go ahead and drill these holes in here. I guess I should decide how deep I'm going to do it. I start 4 inches in, so 4.5 basically. Okay, that's not perfect. Okay. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully it worked. Throw this other one. So if I did this right, I have 2 holes perfectly perpendicular to the top surface of this table. Used to be a piece of firewood, now it's a table. Almost. So, and I'm going to start sanding this block down and smoothing what's going to be the top surface a bit. I'm going to leave it pretty rustic, but I want it to be a more functional surface. So I'm going to level it out, sand it, probably brush it a little bit, clean it up. Leave some of the rustic marks in it though, but make it to where if you set a glass on it, it's not going to be wobbly. So.
No fame nor fortune found me chasing my dreams into the sun. I made a little money, I had a lot of fun. Medicaid and Social Security is the measure of my wealth, but I got 6 guitars and 1 old horse, and I still got my health.
Okay, so I got the pieces of pipe tacked in place on the base. And measured it. Should fit. This thing is pretty heavy. Got the holes in the bottom here. And I'm just going to check and see if it lines up. without breaking those little tiny tacks off, hopefully. By feel. Navigating by feel. Oh, there goes one end. The other one should be on there. Oh, there we go. So, I'm not going to push it down yet because I think it'll just break the tack welds off, but it looks like it's lined up okay. Now I'll get to see what it looks like. I think it looks pretty good. It's going to settle down a little bit more onto the vertical pipe, but that's kind of the general look, I guess. Top of this thing came out pretty cool. Still needs to be oiled, but it's pretty striking looking. Big check on this side, it's pretty nice. A little bit of a wane live edge there. Alright, well I think at this point I'm going to take it apart and finish welding the vertical pipe on, and then put a coat of OSPO on it and oil the block and leave it for the night by the fire to dry. I got myself a little bottle of Listerine here, and I'm going to put it on the metal. It's actually OSPO. It's a rust converter. It goes on like water. It's acidic, so you don't really want to get it on your skin. Hence the gloves. Safety glasses too, actually. Leave that to dry overnight by the fire. I'm going to use the Danish oil again. It's really going to soak it up like crazy on this end grain, for sure. Notice the gray basically turns black with the oil on it, which really brings out the contrast a lot. I think it's nice. Looks pretty. Okay, so here's the base on the fire, and you can see all that OSPO turned white. A lot of it did.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of ugly, I'd say. And I think that's when there's too much OSPO and not enough rust. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the deal. So I'm going to do some sanding on it to try and clean that up a bit. tried to sand this stuff off. Sanded that to get the white off because I don't like that grayish white look. And it is just going to be too much of a pain because of the roughness of the surface. I feel like the rust has been converted and sealed in pretty well with the OSFO, but I don't want to deal with trying to get rid of that grayish white surface layer from the OSFO, so I'm actually just going to paint it. I usually don't paint my metalwork, spray paint it or paint it at all. I like to leave it kind of the raw natural look or patina it, but in this instance I don't want to fight with this gray stuff, and so I'm going to just spray paint it black, and then I might do a little bit of a hand rub kind of thing, rub off some of the edges to give it a little bit of a rustic look. But there's the scoop. It's hot because it's been sitting by the fire even though it's freezing cold outside. Got a kid inside yelling at me. Hang on. What, Taylor? I'm gonna be done in a minute. The camera. I'll be right back. She thought I was talking to somebody out here, so she wanted to come see who it was. Ah! No more paint. There's paint, it just got plugged up somehow. What if it froze? I have to take a break. Go inside and thaw out the paint can again or something. I don't know what happened. Old one, so I got another can and I finished this off. It's pretty textured. I think I'll let it dry and then touch it with some light sandpaper, fine grit sandpaper to sort of smooth it out a little bit, but also bring a little bit of texture into the color, so it's not just flat black everywhere. This is Taylor. Say hi, Taylor.
Hi.
We're talking to the camera.
Can
Alright, I'm done with that. It's stinky. That's why I'm doing it out here.
can I watch that?
Can you go and look at the camera and make sure my head isn't cut off in it?
Yeah. How did you know it wasn't cut off in that one?
Will you look right now for me?
Yeah.
Can you see my head?
Kind of, not the tippy top.
You have to be like down here?
Yeah.
Okay, well I better raise the camera up then. Okay, now see. Can you see my head now?
Not the tippy top.
Still can't see the tippy top?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There, that would be better. That would be better.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, now I can.
Now you can see the tippy top of my head?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell the people. I spray painted it with the black paint and then sanded it just a little bit with some 320 grit hand sanded. It's given it a really nice textured look. A little bit of highlighting on the bumps, some silver on the corners here. I really like how it looks. And now I'm going to use this paste finishing wax to give it a little coat of wax. Just rub it on. Hard, a hard material, like a candle kind of, but a little softened a little bit with some chemicals.
Daddy,
What, Taylor?
can I do wax? And
Maybe when I'm done. Taylor wants to do waxing too, of course. So I just rub it on, kind of thick. Rub it around. This thing is warm, so the wax really melts right in there. So scrub it all around, rub it all around, and then I'll come back with just a rag and buff it, but it's hardly buffing, just rub it off. And it'll give it kind of a nice hand rubbed look, a little bit of highlighting, and also protect it a little bit more, protects the paint, and it has a nice finish. I really like it. So
if I want to.
hopefully it fits.
I want to come be over there. Okay.
It's Taylor. Okay. Let's see, I think it'll fit. Getting it level is going to be sort of another thing. And I got an idea on that. I think it's probably going to have enough friction that it's just going to be, I'll be able to pound it to the right level on these posts, but if not, I do have a plan. There we go. Not sure if that's down all the way or not. I don't think so. It's going to be hard to tell.
That I think is down as much as it can
I
go.
think it is.
Yeah, if you all your weight can't
Yeah.
put it down.
Pretty strong, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's get the level and see how close it is. No, the floor is not level, but let's see. Okay, back to the drawing. We're gonna do a little measuring and drilling. So figured out what was going on there. I guess that I had drilled the holes not to the perfect depth, which I knew I wasn't real careful, and it dawned on me that they had to be just right. Otherwise I was gonna end up out of level. So got the drill bit out, drilled about another 3/8 on this side, which you can see it's fatter, narrower, so made sense. And I have the base leveled to counteract from my floor that is leaning towards the floor drain. This shop was built to store a boat, and so they did a really, I would say, a really steep slope into the floor drain. I guess which is nice, except it does cause me a bit of a headache because there's virtually nowhere on the shop floor that's flat, but I can accommodate for it. So now I got perfectly level, and that's it then. It's got its leveling feet on it so that in its final resting place it can be tuned up just perfect. The block is not going to fall off. I really had to pound those pieces of pipe in. The base is all sealed, leveling feet are in, and it's oiled, and I think I want to keep that. It's rustic, it's a rustic piece, so I'll leave it rustic. It's obviously got a big crack in it, and what I'm finding is a lot of people respond more to the really authentically rustic kind of pieces. Everybody's used to things being so perfect and monotonous, everything the same. So having something that's real, it's a real old weathered piece of wood, it's got all of its cracks and everything there, but it's still functional, it's still well oiled. It sits flat on the ground. It's a perfectly good surface for a side table or a plant stand or whatever. So I think I'm happy with it like that. It feels really nice to the touch. It's very smooth. I finished sanded it to 320 grits, and this end grain is very, very tough. So it's got a really nice feel to it, and visually it's very interesting. So thanks for joining me on this long build process. Started in one afternoon, and now it's the next day in the afternoon, and I didn't count the hours, but there's probably about 5 hours into this thing, maybe total. Could be a little bit less, and messing around with the camera definitely slows me down some. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I'll go put it in my house and take some photos of it in nice lighting in a place where it might actually live, and see if Stephanie falls in love with it. It might just stay there. Thanks for joining me. Do you want to go in there and say bye?
Yeah.
Go sit on it. You can jump right up and sit on it.
Bye.
Shakes everything.
I want to push it.
Don't touch it, it'll burn your hands.
No, the top.
When I want the answers, I just sit and I watch my garden grow. Some's gone to seeds, some's gone to weeds, but oh, there's some fine rows. We live with every beauty, and we die with each regret. So pick up your hoe and know you've done your best. Pick up your hoe and know